I'm really excited because after months of feeling like somebody strapped a bunch of lead weights on various parts of me, making it hard to move, going through phase where it's wake up, eat, go back to sleep, do as very little as possible. Now I'm getting energy. I don't feel that weight, that pressure around me anymore. And I actually am motivated to go do more. So I'm excited about that. With going through these phases, I've become accustomed to them. So I may feel like I'm getting energy bursts, like I can go out and do things. But I also know the spiral is still in effect. So it's the compression, whatever is coming to expand us, being allowed in. We experience that, then that will push up whatever needs to be released. So we're relieved of the pressure. We're out of the vice grip now. But now everything's flowing, so we got to go back to the issues. So we're filtering those, like my last video on how to deal with people saying, no, I'm not going to come to your house for the holidays. I know that you're not going to victimize me in any way. However, it's the settings just, no, not interested. So don't put that on me, and I'm not putting anything on you for saying no. Just not going to do it. So different issue that's going to come up. It's a spiral. You revisit as you expand, and you're always going to take something new when you revisit old issues until finally they pass by and you notice, whoa, that just flew by and there is nothing to clear out. The day does come. But it's also affecting. Normally, when I lay down to go to sleep, I close my eyes and I'm astrally projecting. It's like, whoop, okay, buckled in, and woo, I see myself just, going through space. I just see stars and everything go by. I'm going to the place where my consciousness is going to spend its time while I'm sleeping. Now, however, gone through the vice grip, expanding. I'm even brighter than before. And those that don't like it and are noticing that they can attach to old issues are going to swarm in. We can't have that suppressor. Let's take her back to that place. Make it. And so when I close my eyes, it's like, oh, look, flying serpents' bellies and staring at me. Like, that's okay, guys. I can go inside and have plenty of fun while I sleep. It does not bother me. For me, it's just all a show, like going to the circus. Oh, look what's coming up next. I'm not afraid. Like nightmares, I don't have nightmares. I started to bring up in the video when I was talking about houses burning down and the guy going through and picking up, the children and piercing them on the thorn tree. Anybody else would sit there and go, oh, that's a nightmare. What a nightmarish thing. How did you, oh my goodness. I just looked at it neutral and my interpretation turned out to be correct. Those were the aspects of me or the spirits that rode in on my consciousness when I was born. The parts that are going to move on in my journey through this life experience, this timeline, those are the parts being preserved, and it was heartening for me. Oh, I get to bring my doll, my companion. So like now if I had a dream like that, I would say, oh yay, Anubis gets to come with me. It wouldn't be like some grotesque thing. It's like I always like to say, when we're interpreting how spirit talks to us, a lot of times it can be like an exaggeration. So maybe you're shown a flash of, the ground parting. It's just saying, dude, your zipper's up. Close the barn door. it's 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 a very creative expression, so that we're getting the feeling part of it in with it. So, like, if you're seeing the earth parting and this big wide opening and you're traumatized by it, it's like you're somebody who's going to be really embarrassed because they forgot to close the barn door. They forgot to zip themselves up. Oh, in the spring before I left the slabs, and I just threw all caution to the wind. Like, I'm blossoming. I'm I am amongst the craziest people in the world. I'm just gonna just not care what anybody thinks. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I would just pick up on energy patterns. Like, one creepy guy, he'd walk his dog the same way every day, and he was just establishing this pattern of energy to flow through there, you know? And I just started walking the other way, bringing the energy around, just mucking up everybody's energetic paths and doing absolutely everything, treating the place like it was a sacred burial site, where they're committing all these profanities on the earth. The desert is absorbing all this energy. Well, I'm going to treat it like a sacred burial ground. This is where y'all spirits are coming to die. We're burying you, and this is what we're doing here. And so I did that. I went through the rituals, and I moved all throughout um, the slabs doing that. Uh, and I'd pick up different things, and I knew that I was acting out of time, but in harmony with what was going to be happening at a future time. During this time, I knew that. I was cognitive of it. I wasn't saying, oh, I traveled through time and I did. No, I would just say, hey, I'm going for a walk over here, and do whatever I do. And one of the things that I saw was like a cooler, and I knew that was Arctic ice being sent there. If you think that the government is not experimenting on people in Slab City, then go live that pipe dream. Go someplace else, because it only makes sense. They're the most expendable people on Earth. They're right next to a military base, so oops, we accidentally set this off and it affected those people over there. Just part of the hazard of living so close to a military base. But they will focus, because you also got in the slabs your creative people, the people who are channeling energy, the people closest to spirit. So, where else are you going to get more wizards, witches, practicing tarot readers, artists who are channeling, otherworldly things? You've got all these people. They don't need a government program. What did they call it? MK Ultra or whatever. They didn't need to do that. They just create Slab City, let it stand, and throw some energy waves their way. And the ice, as it's thawing at like the North Pole and then Antarctica, they're finding that there's ancient bacteria that's still alive. When that ice thaws, that bacteria is getting released out into the world. So what is it doing to people? And I knew that they had sent some of that ice to the slabs, and these drunken fools are just like, hey, give me some ice for that, give me some ice for that. It's summertime or spring, like basically summer weather everywhere else. Nobody's going to question the ice. It looks clear, it looks clean, they're going to use it. And I knew what it was. And I just recently learned that the Russian scientists, they don't have all the moral boundaries that maybe American scientists would have. So they're injecting this bacteria into human beings, into themselves, and they're coming out with, like, they don't ever get sick anymore. They've learned, like, people up around the Arctic Circle are living unusually long, healthy lives. So this bacteria, could actually be a blessing, something that we don't have to be afraid of coming out of that ice. But just that now that's coming up after I went through that, and I don't sit there and broadcast, okay, this is what happened during this time, this is what I saw. But I kind of knew what was coming, and I always wait for it to be proven before I say anything, because I'm mostly concerned with myself. I'm not concerned with proving what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm perceiving to other people. I record it for those who are open to hearing it. And every once in a while, especially over the last few years, I'm like, if somebody's at the point where I am spiritually, and they're at the point where they're just going to receive affirmations from what I'm sharing, then there's kind of no reason for me to share. And the last few days when I thought that, a reminder came up like, oh wow, there's a scripture in the Bible, twice in the Old Testament and the New Testament, where it says, no longer will brother teach brother or neighbor teach neighbor, because they will all know. Of course, in the Bible, the people who manipulated it was like, because they will all know me. And speaking, they'll all know God. They won't have to ask each other. Everybody will just know that he's God. But, of course, if you go back to the original interpretations, everybody's going to know who and what we are ourselves. And you're not going to be asking people, who's God? What do the angels have in store for me? What's my future? Everybody's going to know how energy works. Everybody's going to know why they behave the way they do, how they want to behave, that they are responsible for their own emotions, how to control those emotions, how to bring up those emotions when they want to experience them, and all of that good stuff. Another topic that came up was AI again. Mainstream public, they've got AI on their phones where they could come up with programs with their AI. They can work, with these little square things that are not mobile. And you've got your little toy puppies. Those are being introduced to the kids in the houses now. And then you've got what they're introducing mainstream, like an AI, but they don't have, like, they have her formed in a body, but she rolls along. She's gotten acknowledged as a citizen. The UAE acknowledge her as a citizen. But what they don't introduce to and don't make widely known is there are already AI robots, fembots, that are sold, all fully functional, so far to the point where they're making them so that you just implant a fertilized egg and that fembot can carry a child to term. So a lot of this, and it's going to go both ways gender wise, because they make man bots too. Whoa, don't you want to go there? But you think about the dark side of it. You know what's going on. You know they're little children bots. You know that they're boy bots. You know that there's girl bots. And they're AI involved so that they act realistically. And one of the things I saw was that the female robots are allowed to shut themselves off if they're being... Now you have to use the word perceive. It's not, bump into something. That robot, that AI being, has to understand that somebody's taking their fists to them, that they're being abused for it to become non-responsive. So that's a step. They're allowing them to be non-responsive if they perceive themselves being abused. Could you imagine the abuser going to the maker and saying, hey, this thing's becoming unresponsive and I'm just wanting to, have normal activities with it. And then they check it, normal activities, it's working fine. Then person takes it home and they do funky stuff with it. And that's great. That's a great first step. However, way to teach them how to disassociate so we can have schizophrenic AI fembots running around. Yay! Aren't you guys good? But I cannot help also being happy that these pervs and these emotionally dysfunctional people who would choose what they believe is something different from a natural human being to have a relationship with, to have it project their intimate relationship onto, it's not gonna work. Not possible, dude. You know? Sorry, your fembot is gonna be just as difficult to get along with as a human woman. No escaping your inner self. Wherever you go, there you are. That's what that means. You are not going to be able to create something lifelike to avoid responsibility for your inability to get along. Just sorry. It's not going to happen. And I cannot help but have a laugh at, no, dude, you're not going to be able to gaslight them, because they're going to be made to get, like, I was raised in an environment that was conducive to me being a victim, being gaslit, being abused on every level. These things are going to come fresh off the shelves saying, oh, hell no, mofo, you ain't touching me that way, you ain't talking to me that way. Whoop, shutting down. You know, and if they got cases, let them back up, shut the doors on them. You know, you ain't getting in. So I just kind of excited that people won't be able to get away with it, even with AI. So in that way, AI can be our ally. I think that's pretty much it. That's all the latest and greatest. I had a good meeting today with some people that I usually just end up frustrated with leaving. But before I left last time, I said, listen, I'm going to take care of myself. If you want to support me in that, that's your privilege. And I left it at that. So this time when I came back and I produced what I'd like to see happen, they're like, okay, we can make this happen this way, we can make this happen this way. This one says, oh, I can jump in on that, I can cover that. This one says, yeah, I can take care of this. And I'm just like, my whole world is changing. So dealing with my emotions, being emotionally authentic, expressing my needs and expressing my boundaries, because I told them, if you can't do this, if you can't support me, I'm done with you. And if I'm done with you, I'm going to make sure, I'm going to spread the story, and other people aren't going to want to support you, and y'all are out of jobs. Because think about that. You think you go to a government agency and their jobs are locked airtight? Well, they have to produce results. And if people are not going to these government required agencies to attend, then they're not of any use. They're going to discontinue those agencies, and those people are out of jobs. So they need to produce results by finding a way, an excuse for me to need them. And I figured that out. And so I told them, if you want to help me, that's your privilege. You want to keep your job, up here, you don't get a driver's license. You have a driving privilege card. So they're familiar with the word privilege. You can't talk about rights to them. You have no rights. We have no rights. But privileges, that speaks to their elitist understanding of life. And so it is your privilege to support me. And if you want that privilege, you're going to have to come up with something. You're going to have an exchange of energy here. I'm not going to keep coming to you and asking and answering and filling out paperwork, giving my time and energy, and getting nothing in return. Not going to happen. And that feels good to be on that page. Really good. And I hope you find your good feeling pages in this chapter of your life as well.